Pests beware, your fields have heroes. The Pests and Predators podcast is brought to you by Field Heroes and is powered by the Western Grains Research Foundation. Learn how beneficial insects fight pests and protect your crops. Visit fieldheroes.ca today.
All right, joining me now for the beef market update, it is Ann Wasko with the Gateway Livestock Exchange. Welcome here, Ann.
Thanks, Lyndsey. Good to be here.
Yeah, we haven't got to do this in a while, so I am very excited. I will tell you, though, that I always listen to the beef market update, and I would imagine at some point we're going to have a conversation where it isn't some new amazing high, but this week may not be that week. Tell us what's happening on cattle prices on, we'll start with fats down in the States.
Yeah.
How did we do?
So, Lyndsey, it's not that week, but this is good. You get to you get to be in on these new record highs. So the U.S. was explosive again this week. We are going into, of course, their long weekend, Memorial Day weekend, right in front of us. But in Kansas this week, they jumped another $6 to $7 live. So they traded between $2.24 and $2.27 US. I'm having trouble getting my head around these numbers, or my tongue around these numbers.
Yes.
In Nebraska, they were $2 to $3 higher live, so from $2.30 to $2.31. And on the dress market, they were $3.60 to $3.70 delivered. That's $5 to $10 higher than last week. So just an explosive market again. Never say never. I don't know.
Yes. Okay, so let's pause for a moment, because obviously for those in the selling position, yay. Those having to buy, maybe not so yay. But there's obviously several factors that have brought us to this point. I want to unpack some of those. Right now, as you mentioned, Memorial Day, is this like peak demand for beef? Is this like a seasonal high?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So for sure, this is a demand. And we talked about this a lot in 24. You know, we know what supplies are doing, and they're down, and maybe down a little bit more for some reasons we'll talk about as we go through these calls. But certainly demand has been the biggest driver. And just to identify that in particular this week, that wholesale beef market, that market that we watch to give us probably our best barometer of what's going on a week-to-week basis on demand, jumped $11 this week from last week. So the choice cutout closed at $3.61, and the select was $12 back. So again, as you say, this is the time to shine. Memorial Day, Father's Day is a big beef weekend. It's grilling season. I mean, so that part is normal, but these prices are far beyond most of our expectations for sure. And just to finish on the local, before we leave the fat cattle market, even in Western Canada, we saw the dressed market in Alberta at $5, so 500 a hundredweight or $5 a pound delivered dressed. I got to figure out how I word these numbers now. That's steady to $5 higher than last week as well. So another new record high. I think when Canfax comes out with their average tonight, it'll be up around $3, which again, I'm having trouble with these words. These numbers.
Right. Yeah. This isn't now. I guess nobody wants to rain on a parade, but realistically, what's the sustainability of this? And maybe we can talk about some of the things that are sort of working for this, but also maybe against it. I mean, what can we plan on numbers like this? Like, what are the indications going forward?
Well, certainly the demand piece will support timing from this perspective. So if you're going to look at that, then you would argue that once we get into the dog days of summer and, the peak demand is behind us, that the markets will work lower. I mean, historically, we see, a certain amount of change between the second half and the first half of the year. And that could be anywhere from 8 to 10 to 12% down. So we are expecting those kinds of things, but we're certainly coming off of higher levels than I expect we'll be coming off of higher levels than we've seen in some time ever. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, but there are of course several pieces to this, and one of them is supply. And we do need to talk about, not just a shrinking cow herd, et cetera, but the screwworm issue between Mexico and Canada. What do we know right now about what impact that may have on placements?
Well, there's things that we can watch every month to give us a good barometer. So for example, this afternoon, the USDA will come out with their May 1 cattle on feed report for the U.S. So the guesstimates going into that report are on feed numbers down 1.5%, April, and placements and marketing's down 3%. So that's what the trade's expecting. We'll see how the report comes out. And we won't, of course, with markets closed on Monday, we won't have a chance to see what futures think of this until Tuesday. But that placement number, now this is from April, and of course the border just closed again 10 days ago or whatever, I guess almost 2 weeks ago now. We'll see that show up in the May placement data. And again, that'll be a factor. How long does that last? Is this going to be with us for some time? If it is, between 1 million and 1.2 million head of feeder cattle not coming into the U.S. and not ending up in U.S. feedlot, don't forget they're still going to be in Mexico and being fed in Mexico. So you have to look at the big picture, but it certainly changes the U.S. perspective as we go forward. So there's some good things we can watch every week, and we'll talk about it, or every month in this case, and we'll talk about it on these calls as we go forward.
Right. And I think that's an important point. It's not like the cattle that would be moving to the U.S. suddenly disappear. It's just that it does disrupt where those cattle have been going, where they end up on feed, where they end up slaughtered. And certainly, and anyone who is involved in the cattle business, if you don't know what screwworm is, don't Google it while you're eating. It's disgusting. Okay, so I hope they get a handle on it because it is nasty. Okay, so let's bring it home though to Canada and to Western Canada. We did get some reports last week. We did also, and I do want to talk about this about fall delivery numbers and these first indications on calves. So where are we at there?
So for anybody that follows our internet video sales, the last several years, there's been more and more calves getting offered for fall delivery, in June and July as we go through the summer. And that's kind of starting to be mainstay. Well, we saw some calves on some of the sales last week, and there's certainly a lot more this week. And this is still May, so this is early. So some folks obviously testing the waters for what the fall calf market might look like. And certainly, I guess, can we be surprised any more than we already have been? But there was some 5.5 weight calves trading, over $6 a pound for October delivery. And it'll be interesting to see today. There was some yesterday, and there'll be quite a few more today. So once producers saw some of those numbers, I think they were quick to call up their selling agent and said, hey, let's test some calves on this fall market. So those prices are out of this world. Out of this world. Yes.
Makes all of us wish we had bought cattle 5 years ago. But we didn't. But for those of you who did, tip of the hat to you. Okay, so it is definitely something to watch because, of course, this could draw some of those placements out of the woodwork and test where that is. If it's anything like the lamb market, though, when you get a high like that, then suddenly all these cattle appear or lambs appear, and then things start to tick back down. So I guess we'll see where it lands. But as you mentioned, this is earlier, though. Like this is May, not June.
This is a little bit earlier, but again, you're going to just do we take what we normally would have sold, in June, July, and August and move it ahead to May, June, and July. So we'll see what happens, but certainly it's creating some excitement as we go around to some of the brandings right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Which maybe this is where we'll end for today. You are though, Anne. This is just usually I try to find a high note to end on. I feel like this whole thing has been a high note, except for that whole screwworm thing. But you do have your own branding coming up, and it rained in Saskatchewan.
Yeah, we've had rain, so things are greening up big time. Great timing for the rain in this part of Saskatchewan for sure. Yeah. And as we look forward to, like I say, we've been at some brandings, some neighbors' brandings, and ours is coming up. So it's kind of lots of reasons for smiles on the grounds and on our horses and all the way around. So it's good.
I do love those pictures. And it's a family affair. It's a community event. I do love it. I love that we still do these things. I think it's pretty cool. Let's hope it keeps raining. Because certainly, yeah. And I will tell you, I'm here based in Ontario. And I have conversations with people who have lived their whole lives here. And when I tell them how little rain falls in some areas of Western Canada, they don't believe me. So this
No,
is why we
no.
get excited about rain.
We
this time
do.
of
I
year.
think our annual rainfall sometimes happens in days in other parts of the country.
That's right. Yeah, probably
Yeah,
one
yeah.
event I've had, and to be honest. So there you go. Okay. Thank you so much, Ann Wasko. Every 2 weeks here on the Beef Market Update, here on Real Ag Radio. Thank you so much. Well, I hope we get to talk again soon.
Yes, ditto. Have a great weekend.